I don't know what the miracles of technology. Bath, Ontario, in Canada. Can hear and see you. Thank you, Kate. Can can you find? Thanks, Lisa. Okay. So guys, you're able to San Francisco. Where are the people from other side of the world? Anybody who's not from the North American continent that is joining us here? Particularly calling out, asking for people. I see a lot of beautiful. It's amazing. It's lovely to have people from my neck of the woods. I don't know. I wonder if it's something to do with timing. Here we are at the end of our day. They're probably sleeping. Correct, Debbie. I suspected that too. So I know that all of Europe must be sleeping. All of Africa must be sleeping. But I would imagine all of maybe Australia, maybe working. India and some parts of that part of South Asia, maybe it's early in the morning. Yeah, hi Greg from Connecticut, from Wildomar, California. I don't even know where that is. I got to go look it up. So it's exciting. So from Phoenix. Okay, great. Awesome. So why don't we collect ourselves, take a moment, and then let's start the conversation. I want you to take in some nice, comfortable, deep breaths, and then we will go ahead and start this off. Thank you all. Thank you for joining me here. I welcome you all to the episode number 3 of the 7 Steps to Overcoming Anxiety. So last week we talked about the importance of gratitude and the 3 questions to be able to overcome anxiety, to be able to really examine your thought patterns and really where are those fears, where are those hidden traumas that you've been just kind of avoiding all along. And then with the gratitude topic, I just want to also point out, I forgot to mention it last week, but I want to mention that I have a gratitude course, which is very popular on this platform. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in a link here for you guys to be able to check it out. It's a 10-day course on mastering the attitude of gratitude. And it's very important that we understand that, you see, a lot of things that I talk about here in the 7-step series, there's nothing should be really new, right? If it indeed is something that's deeply spiritual, that means our spirit knows it. It is something that resonates with you. Which is why I guess you guys keep coming back. So the soul knows, and what we're here to do is to remind each other. Right? So when there's a resonance with something that you're hearing, something feels right, then you are just uncovering that. So that's what we're doing for each other. We're just uncovering what is profoundly inherent within each one of us in our beings. Right? There's eternal truths. The guru, the master, I always say that, is not sitting somewhere in some mountaintop, and you don't have to climb the Himalayas. You don't have to go sit in a monastery. It is with finding that guru within. It's finding that master within, invoking the genius, that timeless wisdom that is inherent within each one of us. So in the Mastering Attitude of Gratitude course, I do exactly that, right? So it's about trying to uncover, and so it's so important. Gratitude is such a fundamental aspect of us being able to be thriving and to be alive and happy. So today, I want to take it to the next step in this journey towards discovering how we can overcome our anxiety and become the joyful, brilliant, beautiful self that we are. And I want to start off with this whole evolutionary phenomenon that if you think about it, right? So there's many schools of thoughts. There is the creationistic model, there's the evolutionary model, and regardless of what you believe in, if you think about it, we as human beings are the single most powerful species on this planet. How did we get here? So I read this book called, it's by Yuval Noah Harari. It's called Sapiens, in which this guy he's an evolutionary biologist, and he talks about just the entire evolution of mankind and all of the challenges, all of the miraculous events that led us to becoming who we are today and thriving and being able to talk here and convene and have a very comfortable life. How did we, through this whole evolutionary process, go through all of these myriads of circumstantial possibilities for us to create this level of dominance on this planet here? And one of the things that he points out is that we are not the strongest species on this planet. We are not the biggest animal on this planet. And we are not the fastest animal on this planet. Then how did we thrive to become this most dominant species? There is one reason. We have the uncanny knack as a human species to band together, to work as a tribe. Just like bees need the hive, humans, we need tribes. And then, if you see, when you fast forward that into modern 2020 living, we are the first people on this planet who have disbanded tribes and have gone into this new form of thing called nuclear living, where we separate ourselves from each other, where we actually think our individuality is more important than the collective. And everything is about aggregating, congregating, it's about accumulating for the I, me, myself. And therefore, you have the onset, and not only onset, but the booming of this idea of stress, anxiety, depression, and loneliness. So today, I'm here to tell you that if you're feeling anxious and depressed, you're not lazy, you're not broken, you're not malfunctioning, or you have not been dealt with a bad set of genetic cards. Our stress, loneliness, anxiety, and depression is indicating to us that we have certain unmet needs. And folks, I'm going to stick out my neck and say this, that it is the role of us as society to step up and reach out to individuals who have those unmet needs. I'm going to start with the story. I'm going to back this up with a beautiful, true story from Cambodia. There was a doctor by the name of Derek Summerfield who was trying to introduce antidepressants into Cambodia. And when he went there to study, he was trying to understand what were the residual effects of the bombing of the Americans on Cambodia. And not only was there bombing, but there also continues to be these unexploded devices that these poor people are walking around in the forest or in the fields, and they stumble upon it, and then it triggers it off, and boom, they have lost limbs, lost lives, lost parts of their body. So this man was trying to examine that if there's any correlation between that stress and depression. So he goes and meets the doctors in Cambodia, and then he's examining, he's trying to ask them about what's happening, and he's trying to explain the role of antidepressants. Now, when they're listening to this, the doctors in Cambodia, the Khmer doctors, are scratching their heads and they're saying, we don't have a Khmer word that can be a direct translation for what you're trying to explain, this word called depression. So then he goes on to say that, this is like, a chemical imbalance, then you feel that you don't have any hope, you feel like completely disappointed in life. There is no enthusiasm to get up and go out and do stuff. And then the Khmer doctors say, yeah, we know this, and we have a medication for this. And then Dr. Summerfield is saying, what is it? And he's expecting for them to say some sort of a grandmother's therapy, some sort of an herbal remedy, something that's coming down from the lower. And they say, no, it's us, society, reaching out and helping people. So we'll give you an example. So the doctors explain that there was this one man, a farmer in rural Cambodia, who was working on his field one day, and he had triggered off this unexploded bomb, and it blew up both his legs. And so that person was then taken into rehabilitation, was given artificial limbs, and then was sent back to his village. And then he went on to try to go back and try to, work again to make, grow his farm, and then, try to harvest it and make some money out of it. But then there was an excruciating pain that he would experience when he would go and step into the paddy fields with his artificial limbs. And that pain was so terrible that he could not work anymore. He did not have any hope. He was completely broken. He was completely devastated because the only livelihood that he knew, he could not pursue because of the pain that he experienced when he was trying to do his work with these artificial limbs. So then the doctors decided to go down there to sit with this person and listen to his problems. So they did. So they go there and listen to him, and then as they're listening to him, one of them comes up with this idea and says, what this man needs is a cow. He cannot be a farmer who's tending to his fields, but he certainly is capable of tending to a dairy cow. So they buy him a cow, and then they come back 6 months later to check on him. The guy is doing much better. A year later, he is absolutely, completely out of his depression, and he's thriving. And so then Dr. Summerfield asks, what is the connection here? He says, every human being needs to have some sense of purpose. And when we as a society can connect the person's loss, this person's misfortune at that point in time, to a remedy which that person may not be able to conceive, and if we can support him a little bit, we can turn their lives around. So that guy goes on to then become a very self-sustained dairy farmer. So ask ourselves, as a Western culture, how quickly when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling depressed, or when somebody near us is feeling that way, we think it's a chemical imbalance. It could be, but science says that a vast majority of these cases is that they have this feeling of not being enough, not doing enough. We can't measure up to the Joneses, so to speak. Now, as you're listening to this, you know when I say the importance of society, you know the importance of camaraderie and the necessity for the tribe. As we've all heard these things. It takes a village to raise a child. But ask oneself, how much of it are we actually living by? How much of it actually we're practicing it? So many of these things that you hear, whether it's in this session or any of my other sessions, it's nothing new, as I've said that. Then why is it that we are not practicing it? Why is it that these words and these phrases and these terms are so cliche? We hear it over and over again that they're cliche, but we just don't choose to live by it. Folks, it's because we live in a machine that is designed to make us neglect what's important in our lives. We're living in a machine that is designed to make us neglect what's important in our lives. So the next time either you're feeling or you know someone who's feeling stress, anxiety, depression, note that it's not some sort of a malfunction. It's not some sort of a breakdown in that personality. It is a signal that something needs to change in that one's life. And sometimes that change is something that the individual cannot have the strength or the clarity to be able to find that for oneself, and will need the support. Will need just a little bit of a rope that you throw out to that person to be able to climb up, to be able to see the light, to be able to crawl out of that tunnel that they find themselves in. Now, a lot of times that disconnection is simply because of that machinery that we have forgotten that the love that we are, as we get consumed in this whole materialistic pursuit. We forget that the love that we are, and it's that love that we are, is here, it is now, and it is I. That's the source of that love. From that moment onwards, when you realize that, when you feel that, you will know all is well. Why? Because all problems in all the worlds that we can think of, including the big world out there, the little worlds of our home, our work, etc., are no longer viewed as problems, but simply they are signs. They are signs that of this temporary absence of who I essentially am, which is love. Then stress in its simplest definition is the absence of love in that particular relationship. Stress arises between people when we temporarily lost this awareness of the truth of who we essentially are. Perhaps we could use a little bit of help to remind ourselves that it's not where, when, and with whom I will find love, but instead, remember that it's where, when, and with whom I can be love. And with all of this education that we receive, with all of the marketing machinery, with all of the influences around us, that is taking us away from our essential self, we have lost the awareness that we are this amazing, vast, unlimited, unbounded, radiant energy. And instead, we begin to substitute that with our identity as being something, this small, decaying face, this funny-shaped body that appears to be every morning I wake up is perpetually decaying with time. And that one belief alone, that one separation alone from the truth, veils us from our capacity to be consistently loved and loving. And instead it replaces it with anxiety and fear. Now this idea of beauty is transferred from the spirit to form. And then we don't realize that that one translation, this idea of beauty, is you are completely diminishing the radiance of the spirit. And you're comparing it with this artificial beauty that we tend to embellish through the products, and is never enough. We need to keep consuming. We need to have that next thing to be able to enhance this because of the loss of identity. And so maybe the only necessary reminder is to be able to drop back into the essence of the beauty that we already are. The radiance of the spirit that glows from within me, if I love it, if I recognize it, if I see it. So folks, now let's shift from conversation to practice. Okay? So before I do that, I want you to first move your body a little bit. You've been listening to me sitting here for 20 minutes or so. So I want you to make a nice stretch. So I want you to take a twist, a spinal twist. So if you're sitting on a chair, Use the back of the chair as a means of being able to create an extra stretch or pull. And if you're just sitting without any backrest, use your rib cage to be able to create a nice stretch as you turn from one side to the other. Remember to keep your breathing going. Don't ever stop your breath. And as you turn, as you twist your spine, see if you can do that as you're exhaling. And the more you can exhale and empty your lungs, you'll notice that you can give yourself just a little bit extra twist than you were able to do before. This one last time, and then I want you to settle into your body. And let's just take this journey into the heart space. Taking in deep, comfortable breaths. Let's drop into pure awareness. Notice if you can feel the separation on what is and what your mind is trying to make of it. Nothing bad ever happens. Whatever happens, just happens. And it's in my mind that I assign the labels of good, indifferent, or bad. There is a loneliness pandemic across the world right now that's causing more damage than the virus. And when we face adversity, our relationships and our community have an important role to play in our resilience. Positive, kind, and helpful connections with neighbors is the most underappreciated source of well-being and peace. A common misconception of urban living is that we don't feel authentic connection. And that's because we have forgotten that we are intimately connected with everything around us. And in this practice, let's begin with creating a connection with ourselves. And I want you to pay attention to the core of your body. Imagine a line that runs from the top of your head through your body to the bottom of your feet. Now, starting at your feet, feel the sensation in your toes. Wiggle them if you need to. Feel the bottom of your feet. And work your way towards the ankle. See if you can feel the sensation in your ankles. And then gently coming up through the shins to the knees. Feel your knees right now. Coming up to the thighs. And then into your buttocks. And into your lower back. See if you can feel the points of contact your back makes with the chair that you're seated on. And gently follow that up through the spine into your abdomen, and into your chest region, up into the shoulders. And then the bottom of the neck. And let's take this up through the neck, into the back of the head, to the top of the head, to the front of the head, into your face. Notice if you can feel the sensation on the surface of your face. Your lips, the tip of your nose, your ears. Now see if you can take your attention inside of your head. That space right between the ears, somewhere just behind the eyes, just below the brain. That's your seat of consciousness. It's from this vantage point that I, the being, look through these eyes. I listen through these ears. I smell through these nostrils. I sense taste through this tongue. And I experience the sensation of touch through the vast surface of the skin. In this awareness of the being, being aware of the life force that animates this body, I feel connected with my authentic self. This body is my costume. It is the robe that I wear to play my part in this drama that we call life. And as I get caught up in my play, I sometimes lose sight that I am not the costume, and I'm definitely not the props on this stage. I'm that brilliant, boundless, beautiful, joyful spirit that traveler through time. And on that vast journey, I find myself now in this scene within these surroundings. So let us now feel the presence of those around us. With your eyes still closed, I want you to feel the presence of that individual or group of people who are closest to you physically. It may be somebody in this home that you're in, someone in this building, perhaps in this neighborhood. Feel the presence of that one. See if you can extend the awareness to include others in your surrounding. extending it out further. Going beyond the immediate sphere of your neighborhood. Feel the presence of your parents, perhaps your siblings, close relatives, etc. Now see if you can extend that further to people you work with. And with a big heart, send all these people that surround you a wish, a blessing. May all your suffering be removed. May all your suffering be removed. Gently bringing your attention back into the seat and the forehead. Whenever you're ready, at your own pace, come back into this gathering, into our tribe. And ask yourself this question, that instead of wishing that I had more friends, how would I feel if I spent more time with those that I already have in my life, but I never get to see them or talk to them? Instead of wishing that I had more friends, how would I feel if I actually gave quality time to those I already have in my life that I don't spend time with? Folks, now is the time for you to share anything and everything, any comments, any questions. How was this meditation? How was this session? And while you're doing that, I notice people are sending their donations. I deeply appreciate it. This is important that we complete the cycle of give and take. Now, those of you who understand the philosophy of karma is that you can never, ever take anything unless there is a flow, right? And this is not something that I take very lightly. There is always has to be a give for you to be able to receive. So for everything that you've heard in the last 40 minutes or so, for it to stick, find ways. And I'm not saying that you need to give it to me alone. Maybe you have ways in which you can propagate it. You can share this bounty, share this wisdom, something that you've learned out of this, some inspiration that you've gotten out of today. To pass it along, to let that energy. Remember, folks, we are beings of energy. And energy never sits still. It never can be contained. We're not a pond. Energy is akin to a river, and it needs to flow. So find your own way of creating that flow. Okay, so now I'm going to sift through some of the comments here. Very peaceful, grounding. Thank you. Very helpful, amazing. You're one of the best speakers on anxiety I've ever heard. I deeply appreciate it. I'm just sharing with you my personal experience, my own journey, folks, to waking up. That was very peaceful. I haven't felt that peace in a long time. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. That was so moving, beautiful, wonderful. Can I heal myself? If so, how? Sasha, we just talked about it. It's about waking up to realizing the love, the infinite, indomitable being that you are. You're not that little scrawny self that you see in the mirror. And the more you spend time into dwelling into realizing that brilliant, amazing spirit that cannot be defined by these physical circumstances that we find ourselves in. When you are aligned with that being that you are, you will transform. And you know what's beautiful? You don't need to talk about it. You will automatically influence the environment around you and those around you, people that you care for, the people that you happen to have contact with, from a physical proximity even. Because energy lights up anything. Light fills up the room. Sound fills up the room. Heat fills up the room. So is our soul energy, our brilliance. It fills up the room. The transformation is really not even transformation. It is realization. Realize. Think about, break down that word. When you open up your eyes, your true eyes, to see the brilliance of who you are, that's when the transformation, if you will, or, it's funny they call it, this is all not new age, this is the most ancient age section in the library, right? This is eternal wisdom, timeless stuff. I'm standing here, I'm sharing with you wisdom that I have gotten from giants who have spoken about this for eons. And yet, as I said in the beginning of this talk, it is the hardest thing. Why? Is because we are so easily enamored with what we see outside with this physical eyes that our third eye has become blind. We are third eye blind. We have completely shut ourselves off to this amazing capacity of who we are. But you know what? The universe has a way of waking you up. You need to stumble, you need to fall, you need to hurt, you need to feel a sense of dissociation, disconnection, which is why you're here tonight listening to me, or tonight or morning, I don't know where you are, whichever part of the world you're in. Because we say, something doesn't feel right about how I'm feeling right now. And then we come into these gatherings. We call this Sangha. Okay, gathering, the power of the Sangha. Somebody asked the Buddha as he was departing from this world, he said, who will be the next Buddha? And you know what his response was? The Sangha will be the next Buddha. Means community. It's a collective consciousness, a reawakening, reminding ourselves, as that beautiful story, the cow story from Cambodia. We just need to care enough for ourselves and care enough for each other that we collectively create this gathering where we wake up. Wake up to our beautiful selves. We don't need to be spending unending amounts of time going on pilgrimages and doing things that are standing on top of our heads. I mean, that has its own physical benefits, but not to be confused with spiritual realization, to waking up. Right? It's about just that moment of dropping in, as many of you have expressed during this meditation, that you felt that perhaps after a long, long time. So Debbie's asking the question, what is the book by Yuval Noah Harari? And the book I was referring to is Sapiens. He's got a number of ones. Homo Deus is another one. But the one that I was referring to today is Sapiens. Folks, I really appreciate you guys hanging in here. So I ask that you do please one more thing for me. You see, because most of this conversation seemingly is one-sided, I have created a poll just to ask you guys, how is this thing working? I mean, I came up with this idea that it should be 30 minutes. Of course, today we went 45. You guys seem to be still hanging in there, still seem to be enjoying it. I appreciate that. I appreciate your patience. Here is a simple poll, and I'm going to go through this poll with you. It's going to take you less than a minute to go through it. Okay, so here the 3 questions. And if you could please click on that link, I'm going to walk you through it, and I want you to please take 10 seconds each to answer these questions. The first question is, what do you enjoy the most in my sessions? So I've got about 5 choices. Is it the opening story? Is it the wisdom nuggets? Is it the meditation? Or is it this Q&A that we just had? Or is it all of the above? So go ahead and click on one that you feel is most appropriate for you. Second question. What do you feel is the ideal length of each of these sessions? What should it be? Okay, so I've set it at 30, but I'm asking you, would you prefer that I go longer, say an hour? Or would you prefer to stay these 30 minutes? It's perfect. Don't change anything, Jay. This is working for me. Or would you like it to be shorter? For whatever reasons, I'm just giving an example of 10 minutes. So just go ahead and pick one and click that circle next to it. And then the third question is a little bit of a more broad, open-ended question because I don't want to limit it. What suggestions do you have to make these sessions invaluable to you? How can it be of greater value? I know you take this time to be with me. I definitely appreciate it. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I am serving you. I'm meeting the needs exactly where you are and what's needed of you. Okay, so go ahead and just please, if you would, answer these 3 questions, and that'll help me immensely as I formulate the future of this series. Okay, so as I mentioned, that this is a series that we're going to do till the end of this year. So the last Wednesday is going to be the 30th of December here in America, and some of you are joining from different parts of the world. So the last session may be the 31st. So somebody's asking the question, where is the links? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post it yet again. So thank you. I mean, yeah, so you don't need to type your answers. What's more important to me is that you please go ahead and, hit those buttons there. And to me, what will happen is then I don't have to say, there's about 200 of us here, and I don't have to sit and count and say, okay, did I get 49 yeses and 50 no's, or what's the majority? So I can look at the survey later on, and it'll inform me as to see. You don't see the link. That's interesting. Your link is not visible here. Okay. So I guess there's a feature here. Okay. Thank you for telling me that. I didn't realize that. Okay. Yeah. So what I think Insight Timer may be preventing me from posting external links. So I hope you got the essence of those 3 questions. So the first question, I'll repeat it again, is that which one of these different sections of my talk, the opening story, is it the wisdom nuggets, is it the meditation, is the question answer, or all of the above? What do you like? Okay, the second question, I repeat it, is what is the ideal length? Do you prefer these sessions? A, longer. B, perfect 30 minutes is ideal. C, I prefer it to be shorter. Okay, let's say 10 minutes. Okay, and then the last question was more an open-ended question, which is, how can I make these sessions even more valuable to you? Okay, so that is the thing. And so thank you all for patiently listening to all of my repeat of the questions. I didn't realize that they have taken away the privileges to be able to post anything external. So I do appreciate. So I'm getting answers that you. So I'll have to read through them, all of them 40 minutes as is. If you could access them later. So I have a WhatsApp group, but then if they don't let you guys access my links, I don't know how to send it to you. The one thing you could do is maybe look up my website, and you'll see my Facebook group also listed there. It's called Find Within. So it's FINDWITH.IN. So that's my website. So findwith.in. So that's my website, and there you can join my group, and I can have these things. It's not like really I'm trying to take you away from, being on this platform. What I think is more useful is to be able to hear the pulse of the audience and say, what do you guys, want me to talk about? What do you, especially, so for example, this series that I have till the end of this year is all about the 7 steps to overcome anxiety. But then coming into the new year, I want to create something beautiful. Jay, whoever typed it, it's actually slightly different. It's findwith.in. So findwith.in, find within. So that's how my website is. And then you'll see at the bottom of the homepage, you'll see that there is a group that a Facebook group that you can join. And again, the purpose is just to be able to foster ideas, to harvest any suggestions that you guys have and say, what kind of topics, what kind of format, what should I stress more on? Do you want me to spend more time meditating, or do you want me to spend more time sharing stories and wisdom nuggets or Q&A, whatever it is? So let's see. Rachel is saying, yes, I've never done a live event like this. It's so cool being with hundreds of other people. And that's the point, folks. That's the thing I was telling you about the Buddha's famous last words. It's about the Sangha. We are creating a soul tribe. We are creating an opportunity for us to create a space where we can resonate naturally. Now, tell me something. Raise of hands. How many of you feel, okay, this is a profound question. I want you to think carefully. How many of you feel that those people that you were A, born with, B, grew up with, C, went to school and, kind of spent a large part of your upbringing with, you meet them now and somehow you don't feel like you belong to them. It's that weird feeling when you go to those weddings, the Christmas gatherings or the celebrations, a birthday party, what have you, and say, well, these are all of so-called my people, but then there's a part of you that says, but I feel like I don't resonate. I don't really belong here. These conversations, I'm seeing all of these hearts fly up on my screen. So there's clearly many of you feel what I'm talking about. And I wrote an article about this. And I said, because we are all individually, that's me totally, right? So yes, and that's absolutely true. Thanks, Laurie. So yes, and that's because we are all on this conscious journey. Maslow in the 1920s came up with this idea of hierarchy of human needs. But I want to extend that further and says it is not the hierarchy of human needs in the physical body. He talked about food, shelter, clothing, and connections and your name and fame in the community. I say that the soul is on a journey across lifetimes. If you indeed believe that we are this brilliant star that sparkles in the forehead, that is the animating driving force of this body, then energy, as we've learned in elementary physics, is neither created nor destroyed. We continue to exist. All we're doing is changing costumes, changing settings, changing scenarios, playing different roles. So that means if we're in that journey, our spiritual evolution has also come with us. So when we are here in the surroundings where our physical proximity does not necessarily guarantee a spiritual vibrational resonance. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Okay, we're here, maybe because we're here to settle, learn something, we're karmically bound with these people, but that does not necessarily mean that these people are the most inspiring people, or the other way around. They don't care to listen to any of the stuff I'm talking about. And I'll tell you, there are people in my family who wouldn't give me a second look when I start talking like this. They think I'm like a weirdo. Yes, it's tingling, okay? So totally. So that's why the creation of this tribe, the creation of this Sangha, folks, is paramount, because we're here because we resonate, and we're here to help each other along to the next phase and to the next step in our journey, right? And it's going to come with stumbling. We're going to wake up to this just naturally. That's the nature of inertia, right? Inertia means we always want to continue. We feel comfortable. It's very comfortable to be able to continuing just the same old way that everything ever was. But then I said, then life happens, right? Life has this amazing way to knock us, to kick the wind out of our sails, and we find ourselves grounded. We find ourselves, somehow disillusioned, destroyed, dismantled, use any word you want, and I say, wait. There is a greater truth. There is a reality. There is a feeling that I have deep inside my heart that knows that there is a truth that I once remember that can be reattained. Note my words. I'm not talking about creating some new reality. It's about basically dropping back into, it's revisiting, it's refinding the love that we are. And with that realization comes a completely new beginning for everything around us. So folks, it makes sense. Thank you, Sasha. I appreciate your explanation. Feels like we are in a big circle holding hands. That's beautiful. I love it. Being part of the circle allows me to work through the daily challenges. And that's the point, folks. That's the point. This is what I was sharing with you, that, finding authentic connection. It's about, sometimes it's verbal, and we need that. And sometimes it's just even spiritual. It's about vibrational, knowing that there are others around us whose happiness. And this is very important. I talked about this idea of Ubuntu last week, right? You are important in my journey, and I am important just as much in your journey. Okay? We thrive together. A rising tide floats all boats. So as I'm nurturing myself, as I'm empowering and nurturing and making myself more powerful, guess what? I don't have to say one word. I'm picking up the others who are around me. So Jagdeep is asking this question, where am I? Yes, I don't talk about myself, which is really, I feel it's not important. But since you asked, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. And a little bit of my journey, since most of you are, just look at this. The numbers are increasing after the 1 hour mark. It's supposed to be a 30-minute session. So it seems like you guys are enjoying it. So, I just want to share a little bit, since most of you are here and just holding hands, I want to share my story real quick. So my journey, I was born and raised in South India. And I was a sportsman. I always tried to do the best I can in anything. So I was into sailing, and I got into sailing through an uncle of mine who was a champion sailor. And when I was 13 when I got into it. I was really, really scared when I first got into the water, because I just had finished watching the series of Jaws. And if you guys remember anything from those times, forget about getting into, open body of water. I get scared to get into a pond even. But anyway, so long story short, I went on to become the national champion in India. Then I came to different parts of the world. I came to America first time to compete. I was representing India. And then friends of mine talked me to go into grad school, because I just finished my undergraduate degree in chemical engineering. And I went to school in Austin with a full scholarship. And then something happened. Something very interesting, very counterintuitive, that I've had my spiritual awakening in Texas. In Texas, people, of all the places in the world. Growing up in India, didn't do it, but I had to come to Texas to have this waking up and saying, what is the purpose? I have everything. I'm already, successful in my schooling and my sportsmanship. And I said, but why am I not completely content and, blissful all the time? And I said, there's got to be a deeper truth. And so I traveled back to India, and I met with a childhood friend of mine, a Muslim boy growing up in Old City, Hyderabad, very orthodox Muslim family. And he was practicing meditation, and blew my mind. I said, what is this guy? He's doing anything here but that is Islamic, that I know of his culture. He wakes up early, sits down, meditates, became vegetarian. What has happened to this guy? And so because he was the smartest kid in the school, he was the head of the Dramatic Society. He won the President's Gold Medal in India for the best young scientist. I was like, something is up with this guy. He's not doing some crazy thing. He followed some guru, followed into some kind of a spiritual trap or something. So that led me to this thing about going to a meditation center and experiencing my first meditation practice. And two things stood out for me, which I today, 20 years later, I keep saying it. A, they were exploring this question of who am I really? Second, what is my purpose on this earth? Blew my mind, and I said, these two fundamental questions every human being should be taught, should be asking themselves, and yet I'm on one of the best universities in the world and nobody ever talks about it. And I said, I am going to experiment. I'm going to research the subject more. So then I came back from that trip to America, back to university. I started a club on campus at UT. We'd have Saturday afternoon gatherings. So every Saturday I would have, week after week, I'd pick up a book. I'd take some inspiration. We'd have a reading and we'll have a meditation. And so that built up momentum. And then when I graduated from university, Sasha, you're from Texas. Hi. So that gathered momentum. And when I got a job in the same city, I was now having a house in Austin. So my house, my place became the gathering, the sangha, the community where they would start meeting at my place instead of at the university. And then so I started enjoying this idea of hosting gatherings. And then that company that I was working for got bought out by another big tech company, and then that company moved me from Austin to San Francisco. And then I moved to San Francisco, I decided to move into an ashram. And for those of you who don't understand the word ashram, ashram is a spiritual place. It's a spiritual center where people are usually akin to monks, right? So akin to nuns, monks, priests, whatever you want to call it. It's a community. It's a communal living where we're all, the only bond between us is our spiritual practice. So for 18 years, I lived in a ashram in part of it in Austin, some part of it in San Francisco. And then 2 years ago, I decided to take my practice out of the ashram. It's like coming down from a mountain movement down into the streets. And now I have started teaching around the world. I started traveling. I no longer represent an organization. I believe that I'm serving the Supreme Being. And I was doing retreats in different parts of the world. And boom, COVID happened. COVID happened, and then the music stopped, and I found myself stuck in San Francisco on the 5th of March. Actually, I flew in from New Zealand on the 5th of March to attend a conference. It's a very interesting conference. Those of you in America, or I guess you can even join this online. It's called Wisdom 2.0. It's the one conference I do not miss. I've been attending this for the last 9 years. So I flew back in for the conference happening at the Hilton downtown San Francisco, and the music stopped. I've been stranded for the last 8 months. Now, folks, for you to get an idea, 2019, I traveled to 23 countries. Do the math. I was sitting in an Uber one day, and the Uber driver asked me this question. I told him 23 countries. He says, wait, 52 weeks, 23 countries, that means you were basically in no more than 2 weeks in a single country. And now for the last 8 months, home, not going anywhere. And thanks to Insight Time, or thanks to Zoom, I'm able to continue reaching out. Like I told you, I'm like a river. I cannot just be stagnant. I cannot just be learning, meditating by myself. There has to be this opportunity to share. And not a bad place to be stranded, just right. And you know what? Bad place, good place. Let's see, this is labels we're attaching. This is what I was saying at the end of the meditation. There's no good or bad. Things are things, places are places. We ascribe labels to them. We judge them. And when we drop that judgment, every place is just like any other. Okay? My awakening was in India. It's crazy. I go to an ashram in India a month a year. That's beautiful. That's amazing, Jagjit. Yeah. So then fast forward, like I said, so then Insight Timer reached out and said, they're starting this video platform. I said, yay, wonderful. Thank you, universe. So from all of those beautiful gatherings, I was doing this 4 quarters of the year. I was doing it in 4 different continents. So spring in Japan, at cherry blossom, summer in Italy, just south of Tuscany, the fall in Yellowstone National Park, and then in the winter I was in Latin America. Everything canceled. And look, here we are with this beautiful new Sangha that I found online. And I this is amazing. I don't have to, so the benefits, I'm not just trying to say that, okay, I'm stuck here, so I wanted to just try to be happy with whatever situation is. No, I mean, the fact is, I don't have to spend time on traveling, logistics, planning what people are going to eat, right? All of the other nitty gritty. I can focus exclusively on my forte, which is the content, which is that thing that inspires me, the thing that I practiced for 18 years living in that cloister, inside the community, inside that ashram. So as you can see, folks, I can go on and on. And I thank you all for hanging in there. I see 209. I think it's the highest we've had so far in this session. So it seems like you're enjoying it. I do appreciate it. I just want to say that, I'm sure you have other things. Teach me, LOL, what you learn. Well, Sasha, I'm here to teach you every day, every week, buddy. So, you just join us. I don't know if a male, female, doesn't matter, but call you buddy, but you know what I mean? It's all in good faith. Yeah, I think, how I wish. So Yoko's saying, how I enjoy hearing your story. I would love to hear your all stories. I would love to somehow take time to maybe we can have a guest speaker, go to a different person and hear different parts. Because I really believe there's a collective wisdom. There is wisdom that's inherent in everybody here. And what we're doing here is harvesting it. We're just sharing our stories. There's certain things that will trigger from my story. Why I love storytelling is because stories have that power where you can see a commonality, right? There's something in that story that resonates with you that tells you, wait, I've been there, done that. That speaks to me, right? So I would love to hear your stories. I don't know what the forum is. Maybe you guys join my Facebook group, like I said, and then we'll find a way to do that. But we all have incredible journeys, folks. And remember, it's also very, very, very interesting, very important, the narrative that you put around the story that you're playing and saying that this is my story. Is it something that you say that is from the trials and the tribulations? We have learned. I had to go through that to be here, right? Waking up never comes automatic, never comes without a price, never comes without some pain. Pain is a great teacher. But let's not get stuck in that. Let's not just keep getting depressed with keeping that pain as a centerpiece. No, that has come as my springboard for me to jump. So as long as I'm able to tell the narrative in the right perspective, I'm on this trajectory to reclaiming my original power, my original perfection, my greatness. So wonderful, beautiful people. Thank you all for hanging in here. I really appreciate your patience. Thanks for initiating my life story journey. Keep smiling. The smile keeps getting bigger and bigger. I can't say thank you enough. I appreciate that, Kyle. No, you guys are beautiful. Like I said, you're my family now. You're my tribe. So let's keep connected. And I will see you all same place, same channel, same time next week. Until then, be well.